Tonight, Parliament's emergency recall labelled an attempt to abuse legislative powers in support of an alleged grand scheme for state capture, as a deputy minority whip vehemently fights off government's plan to merge the Volta River Authority with the Bui Power Authority with less than 100 days to the general elections.
If care is not taken, the information in my constituency is that the government wants to let Akosombo swallow Bui so that the government will bring all the thermal plants together and sell shares and buy them. Is this state capture? Should we allow this one to happen? Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue and we must not overspeed with this. Mr. Speaker, laying these papers in this house will turn this emergency recall emergency state capture.
And we'll hear from the NPP majority.
We had done our homework well. I had challenged you. You have not even done that. What is this? I'm just surprised at this because I think he's violently out of order. Violently out of order. And Speaker, you should rule him out.
And we are live in Parliament where the majority side failed in the attempt to get the House to back a motion of rescission in the desperate attempt to overturn an earlier rejection of a $250 million loan. And Top Story is always brought to you by Telecel, connecting Energy's holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Tonight, Parliament's emergency recall has been labelled an attempt to abuse legislative powers in support of an alleged grand scheme for state capture. There was drama when the deputy minority whip, Ahmed Ibrahim, stood on the floor of Parliament screaming, demanding that the House rejects government's plan to merge the Volta River Authority with the Bui Power Authority with less than 100 days to the general elections. And this is being a day when Parliament was recalled under emergency circumstances. My colleague, parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante, is with me in the studio. And let's place this in context. This was simply an attempt to lay some papers.
Yes, Evans, the House was recalled to deal with about 5 businesses. The Speaker of Parliament this morning whittled that down to 3. 2 loan agreements and then some tax waivers. And the Speaker of Parliament had earlier on indicated that there were certain attempts to lay some papers that he was not going to allow because it was not part. But if time permitted, he was going to deal with it. The entire day was spent on other matters, galamsey and other issues, without going into the substance of the key issues. But just before the House was going to take an adjournment today to return tomorrow to deal with all these key issues, the government side printed an order paper addendum and brought it in to lay some papers. Among those papers, it's a bill that is seeking to merge the Volta River Authority and the Bui Power Authority into one body to be called the Ghana Hydrological Authority, the Ghana Hydrological Bill. And Ahmed Ibrahim was on his feet, insisting that this is not something his side was going to allow because his chiefs and people of Banda, as well as others in Bolibamoy, have not been consulted on this matter. They've not been paid consultation, and that he believes the real purpose for which reason government wanted to merge these 2 institutions was an attempt to sell off their assets. And this is not something he was going to allow to stand.
If we say we have 94 days to elections, Mr. Speaker, if you allow this number of papers to be laid, Ghana Thermal Authority Bill, Ghana Hydro Authority Bill, Mr. Speaker, merging all this, and you say that they will bring report, Mr. Speaker, in our next meeting. Mr. Speaker, we are all in our constituencies campaigning. 94 days to the exit of this government. What proper job, Mr. Speaker, will be done on this? The chiefs must be consulted, the people must be consulted, stakeholders must be consulted. And Mr. Speaker, I knew it was for good reason that the former President Kufuor decentralized. Now, why should we be going in the area of reconcentration? We may not bring efficiency. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, we must hasten slowly on the laying of these papers. Mr. Speaker, in this era where we have problem with even ECG and PDS, you are saying that you are going to let Akosombo swallow Bui. Mr. Speaker, where are we heading to? And why are we in a haste? Mr. Speaker, if care is not taken, the information in my constituency is that the government wants to let Akosombo swallow Bui so that the government will bring all the thermal plants together and sell shares and buy them. Is this state capture? Should we allow this one to happen? Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue. It's a serious issue. And we must not speed with this. Mr. Speaker, laying these papers in this house will turn this emergency recall emergency state capture. Where are you in a hurry to? Is Ghana going to cease after January 7th December 2024? No. Mr. Speaker, when President Kufuor was going for 622 million from China to come and construct Bui, the books of Akosombo could not be used to go and source for the loan. Akosombo couldn't do that. That is why President Kufuor used cocoa to go and guarantee for the loan. Now the cocoa sector is collapsed. And now you are saying that you should let Akosombo swallow Bui. Oh, Mr. Speaker, we must not tread on that path. And I think the best thing for us to do, Mr. Speaker, to step these things down. When we come in 2025, you will be here, we will be here. So we take our time, consult the stakeholders. Why was the Bui Power Authority Chief Executive running away from explaining to the chiefs? The chiefs must be informed. You have taken their land to construct a dam. You have not paid their compensation. Now you are going to give the same thing to Akosombo. You have not explained anything to them. That's why, is that democracy? Is that democracy? Where are we going to? Where are we going to? Mr. Speaker, this house must help to save the good people of Bola Bamboi and Banda constituency.
At the point, from what I understand, the speaker was actually worried for his own health because of how angry and visibly shaking he was whilst he was speaking.
In fact, that is something that the majority chief whip alludes to, that this is how he speaks to on very passionate matters, and that they've asked him that his pressure could go up and he could face some health consequences. But the substance of another press response was that these were baseless claims that were being made by Ahmed Ibrahim. They were not founded on any facts or law.
My friend and deputy whip is one of the very experienced colleagues in leadership. So I get worried and taken aback. What you've just done is surprising. Speaker, if we are to go into our orders, the inherent conditions for laying of papers is clear. It's very clear, unless you are inventing your own rules. Speaker, as and when sufficient copies are received by the table office, then they take necessary action. Is it the case that any provision, no, you are not even listening. Is it the case that any provision in the orders have been flouted? And earlier on, Deputy Leader, you signaled me, and I challenged you to check at the table office. We had done our homework well. I had challenged you. You have not even done that. Speaker, we have not, this is the first reading. You can lay, yes, lay. We've not gotten to second reading where we will look at principles. What is this? I'm just surprised at this. Speaker, I think he's violently out of order. Violently out of order. And Speaker, you should rule him out. He should rule him. I don't want to say that he hasn't checked the rules because I know he knows the rules. He's intentionally inflicting pains on the house. Why are you doing this? Honorable Ahmed, what is your problem? Speaker, he has lost it. He's out of order. He should take a break and probably catch some water, get some water and drink, and then I think he'll be fine. But he's totally out of order. This is laying, as Speaker, you rightly advised him. You told him that at a point you were worried about his health. And so I thought he would have taken a cue. He's also trying to catch your attention to inflict more wounds on us. Why? Speaker, he's totally out of order, and I urge you to rule him out so that we can make progress.
Was he ruled out?
The Speaker did not. In fact, the former majority leader of Oseche Mensah Bonsu, together with the current majority leader, spoke and said he was out of order. But the Speaker of Parliament did consult with the clerk to Parliament as to whether or not sufficient copies of these bills have been made available. The explanation he gave was that The only copies that have been sent to Parliament are WhatsApp copies. The Speaker then determined that WhatsApp copies are not enough copies, for which reason that bill must be laid. And so the Speaker did not allow the bill to be laid. If tomorrow they're able to get copies of the bill in hard copies to the clerk's office, these bills will be laid and referred to the committee.
Thankfully, Ahmed Ibrahim joins us right now on the line. He's the first Deputy Minority Whip. Thank you, sir, for the time here on Top Story. So really, what's the basis of your objection to this? All I heard you say is a suspicion from the whispering grapevine of gossip and rumor that this may be state capture. How is the merging of the Water Authority with the Bui Power Authority state capture?
To begin with, let me say a very good evening to your cherished listeners. As a matter of fact, this issue of merging the Bui Power Authority and the Volta River Authority was contemplated when the Bui Power Authority was about to be established. At that time, the Akosombo Dam, that's the Volta River Authority, their books were not enough. Their books were not good enough for them to be used as a guarantee for the facility for the Bui Power Authority. And that is why, in the wise wisdom of the former President Kufuor, he chose to establish a special vehicle, and that was the Bui Power Authority as an authority, so that he will separate it from the Akosombo, that Volta River Authority, and use the proceeds of our Kuku as a guarantee to go and look for the facility to establish the Bui Power Authority. At that time, it was argued that when separate authorities are established, it will bring efficiency, it will bring effectiveness, it will bring good and dynamism in management. It will let every authority be able to use situational circumstances to manage their own affairs. As I speak to you, Bui Power Authority have their own CEO. Volta River Authority have their own CEO. The measure of the two will mean one of them will have to go. If we have any issue at Bui, we have to go to Akosombo before we can settle other issues. I speak to you.
But how is that even an issue? Many government institutions, like Parliament, you find it in Greater Accra. Why is that, and why you should be objecting to this? I mean,
that state capture. The essence of the state capture is this: government wants to bring all the thermal plants together and form what we call Ghana Thermal Authority. Then bring all the hydro together to what we have, Ghana Hydro Authority. When government wanted to do this in 2017, the CEO for Bui was Honorable Fred Owari. He argued that it was not in the good interest of Bui Power Authority for the measure. And he, at that time, inside the discussion was that government wanted to merge all the thermal plants and then float it on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Who was going to buy them? Government
is not a thermal
for government to take the thermal plants from them, the government must compensate them. And the compensation is that government will make Bui Power Authority with Akosombo.
Ahmed Ibrahim, you talk about thermal plants. I mean, Bui isn't a thermal plant. Mr. Ibrahim.
Bro.
Yeah, Bui isn't a thermal plant.
Bui is hydro.
Yes.
And Akosombo is demanding for Bui as a compensation because they have spent money on the thermal plants. This is insider information they've told us. So the workers in Bui Power Authority are not happy with the measure.
But
and that is why the former CEO, Fred Owari, kicked against it when Boakia Jaku was there. And Metropoko Prempeh is no longer the energy minister. Why should he be lobbying MPs to agree on the measure?
I mean, and I made the point to you.
He's not a running mate. And he should focus on his running mate.
He is no longer
He's no more the minister for energy. And therefore, Metropoko Prempeh should not be interested in lobbying MPs to agree on the measure.
Have you been lobbied?
Yes, my members on the energy committee were lobbied by Metropoko Prempeh this morning. And clearly, this issue was not part of the recall. And if you listen to the speaker said it was just a WhatsApp message. Why in a rush? What is Metropoko Prempeh's interest? And why is it bringing a WhatsApp message that we use WhatsApp to send a bill? Since when? How did we get here?
So let's
going to be dissolved tomorrow.
Let's clarify a few things. You claim that your members on the minority side were lobbied this morning by Metropoko Prempeh.
Please.
You were not lobbied.
don't forget, I'm a deputy minority chief whip.
Yes,
and don't forget, Matthew Poku Prempeh, when he was nominated as a running mate, did not want to leave the energy ministry until we decided that we will not be part of the vetting of the Minister of State and the Minister of Energy. Even the Minister of State and the Minister of Energy, Albert Kampa, was accepted, vetted by the minority and agreed by the minority. Before Poku Prempeh himself resigned.
Yes.
What is his interest at the Minister of Energy?
No, but you haven't given any evidence to support the allegation that people were lobbied.
What evidence again do you have when my members have been lobbied by him even today?
And I'm saying that he lobbied everybody else by yourself. Why?
I'm a deputy whip, and he knows I'm one of the stakeholders. Because when the news broke out, the chief in the Bana Traditional Authority called a traditional authority meeting and called the Bui Power Authority's chief executive officer, Mr. Kofi Jamasi, that this is what we are hearing from Parliament. Come and brief us. After all, you've taken our land. We've given you the land. You have not compensated us. Issues that have to be settled have not settled. Now you are going saying that you are going to use the Bui Power Authority to compensate Akosombo. His answer was that he didn't believe it was true. And therefore, if the chief wanted anything, they should write to the regional minister or the district chief executive.
Yeah, but
a chief executive officer at Bui, he's not privy to this meeting. What are you telling me?
Yeah, but
what was he hiding?
Ahmed Ibrahim.
And you think government can make Bui Power Authority and Water River Authority without
Ahmed
the
Ibrahim,
notice and notification
I know
of the chief executive officer of Bui?
I know you're very passionate
How
about
this.
this.
Possible?
I know you're very passionate about this, but it'll help to also listen. I mean, I saw this play out on the floor today. The speaker was actually.
Why is it that the CEO of Bui didn't want to reveal every information to the chief in Ghana?
Ahmed Ibrahim, it'll be helpful to also listen, and because you've made a point that people were lobbied today. You haven't provided any evidence to that. And by the way, lobbying is not illegal. What is wrong with lobbying?
Part of our recall. It was when Nabo came and lobbied them that they brought other people at do.
But the Speaker of Parliament, at the point, allowed this conversation to happen. So you're saying that the Speaker of Parliament is looking at this?
He was notified that they brought it. And when the issue was said, he sent for evidence. And the evidence revealed that it was a WhatsApp copy.
So that is why it wasn't late today.
And he said,
that is why it wasn't late today, because of the lack of adequate copies of this particular piece of legislation that would have promoted the merger of the VRA and the Bui Power Authority. But fundamentally, though, all you've said is that there is suspicion that this is part of a grand scheme to merge. Substantively, though, beyond the suspicions you have, what is wrong with merging the Water River Authority with the Bui Power Authority to make it into one institution? That is definitely going to reduce the burden on the state purse. Hello, Ahmed Ibrahim. I may have lost him down the line. But this is obviously something he's very passionate about for his people in that constituency. He says people were lobbied today, alleging that they were lobbied by the former energy minister. He himself, though, although he is the minister, he's the member of parliament for the area that will be directly affected, appears not to have been lobbied on this particular matter. Today, though, the substantive reason why parliament had been recalled, or the three main reasons, one of them, the main one, revolves around some $250 million that the government wanted Parliament to approve. This was rejected before Parliament went on recess under very controversial circumstances. The majority leader today attempted to get the House to move a motion of rescission to try and get the House to overturn that particular rejection. And Kweku joins me. Kweku, this also didn't quite pan out the way the majority leader had hoped today.
Well, yes, first, the majority leader did move the motion, citing the standing orders, for which reason he wanted the House to go back on that decision that the House took in rejecting that on the last day of sitting in the last meeting. According to the majority leader, he was really founded on the standing orders of the House and other applicable rules, for which reason he wanted the House to go back on that decision.
First, the Finance Committee, by consensus, had tabled before this House a report, upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session, except on a substantive motion for rescission. And the content and the form of my application as couched to the effect that I want a rescission fall squarely within this provision, because I cannot raise a question of this matter once the matter is dealt with. This house is fontus. We cannot come back. There is an estoppel provision there, except to say, Mr. Speaker, that I would have to come by this motion, and that is why I have come by this motion. Mr. Speaker, on the details of this application regarding the attachment, which will be the subject matter of this clarification.
And quickly, the fundamental reason why this $250 million was rejected the last time before the Parliament went to recess was because of the allegation that had been made by Muntaka Mubarak that some $19 million of the $250 million was going to be used for consultancy.
Yes.
Today, he got some clarity on this matter because the chairman of the Finance Committee, Patrick Boama, gave some additional documentation to support the argument that it isn't 90 million. It's actually far less than that.
Yes. So Patrick Boama, seconding the motion to rescind that decision Parliament took, did explain. He had a sheet of paper with a breakdown of what the 90 million was going to be used for. And they are going to use a huge chunk of that, according to the majority side, to purchase meters for the Electricity Company of Ghana, and that all that amount was not going into consultancy, as Muntaka had said then, which had formed the large basis for which reason the loan was rejected. Muntaka then is given the opportunity by the Speaker as to whether or not he is satisfied with the explanation that have been given. And he said at the time that although per the breakdown that has been given, about 10 million was still going into consultancy, he was satisfied with the answers given.
Because apart from a total of about 11 million or 10 million for consultancy, you have others like supporting to roll out clean cooking program. What is that going to entail? If you add all those little things that have been mentioned again and again, you see that a total of almost close to 40 million may be going into the non-core. And Mr. Speaker, we should not be allowing them to give us a loan and detect some of these things that does not add direct benefit. Because even though it may look concessionary, like I said the other time, Mr. Speaker, we will pay for it. And therefore, we must ensure that the very details of what it entails is known, so that when it comes to oversight, Parliament can play its oversight properly. Mr. Speaker, with this comment, I want to add that, yes, with this breakdown, that clearly shows that consultancy is not going to take the chunk of the 94 million, but it's going to take only about 10 million. Even though I agree the consultancy 10 million is still very high, at least that's giving us some indication, an indicator that we can monitor to ensure that about 84 million of the 94 million, as stated that day, are going into meters and other things, even though I see some of them as, in my view, non-core. With this, Mr. Speaker, I will urge my colleagues, especially on Finance and Energy Committee, to ensure that in oversighting, we ensure that this breakdown is implemented. Because once they've given us this, in the implementation, it should follow same. With this, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute. Thank you very much.
So he's happy.
Well, yes. He seemed really excited by the explanation that had been given. But then his leader and others came in and said that given that this information is yet to be vetted and verified in the way they want, and this is just a piece of information that was coming on the floor by the chairman of the Finance Committee, they believed that this matter must be referred to the Finance Committee to do a good job on that. In fact, at some point, the majority leader wanted that done in 30 minutes or so. The minority side insisted that quite some time needed to be taken on this matter, for which reason the Speaker obliged and made that referral. So, Councillor Atufos, the minority leader, clear in his stance that that report must go back to the Finance Committee.
I do not have with me a full complement of the loan agreement that was rejected. I do not have with me the project appraisal document. And it's until you have that document that you can reconcile these numbers. to be able to confirm the position that Honorable Muntaka has raised. Mr. Speaker, that is important. That is important. If the ranking member was surprised with this information, Mr. Speaker, probably, his views on this matter may be different. But until he gets information, for him to be able to adequately cross-check in the document that he's asking us to rescind, Mr. Speaker, it will be very difficult for members of the Finance Committee to take a decision that will guide this House. Mr. Speaker, I suggest that this House goes with the Honorable Jenapo's position, that this document, this sheet of paper, A4 sheet of paper, be now referred to the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee to immediately meet. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure this will take them long, but they will have to do some due diligence to confirm that indeed the $90 million that Honorable Muntaka raised, the number that he raised earlier, does not reflect the details of the loan agreement. Mr. Speaker, at this stage, it's so difficult for us to confirm, and I do not believe that we can do that on this floor. And so I urge that the matter be referred to the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee to be able to do their job and report appropriately.
So that there is Case Latofo, he's a minority leader. We would come to what we had after this, because some senior members of the minorities had actually disagreed with this particular approach. And then the Speaker also then intervened on this matter. Remember, this, in the list of things to be considered during this emergency recall, this is number one on that list. And Kweku will give us some context. But I have with me back Ahmed Ibrahim, who joins us again. He's the first Deputy Minority Whip. He was with me on the subject of the merger between the Volta River Authority and the Bui Power Authority, which was a substantive matter of controversy on the floor today that he had vehemently opposed. You've heard him screaming there on that matter. He joins me right now. And I lost you earlier, and I really wanted to drill down to your fundamental disagreement with the merger. This is coming at a time when both parties agree, your party and the MPP agree, that the size of the government bureaucracy is too large. And if you can merge state institutions to reduce the burden on the state, you must do so. So what really is the fundamental disagreement?
The fundamental point of disagreement is that reconcentration or excessive concentration also brings about bad governance. And if care is not taken, merging Bui Power Authority and Volta River Authority would rather bring high level of bureaucracy, because any document that you send to Bui, unless they have to bring it to Akosombo for the CEO to approve before approval will be given. But now that both are separate, there's quickness in decision taking. There's efficiency in management. The level of responding to the issues and matters concerning Bui Power Authority is quick. And therefore, we are saying that we are vehemently opposed to the merger. Secondly, in terms of efficiency, Bui Power is higher than Akosombo. Simply because if you look at what they are doing at Bui, we started with 400 megawatts of hydro. Now they have added about 100 megawatts of solar. And they have produced the biggest solar farm in the whole of West Africa. Now they've taken quick decisions, and now they are trying to attract private sector in the kind of investment that we are attracting there. We have the Bui Sugar Factory, we have the Bui Cashew Factory, and a lot of things. I think that if we don't protect Bui Power Authority and we allow them to make the two, Akosombo VRA will just swallow Bui, and after swallowing Bui, the mess in Akosombo or VRA, which made it impossible for us to go and grant a loan because of from the books of VRA, will continue. And they themselves are aware of that. Beyond that, the directors and the chief executive officers and the senior managers in Bui, in fact, the measure of the two will see most of them going. And I don't think in terms of local content, it will benefit us. When Akosombo was constructed, VRA, it was in 2009, 50 years later, that I saw the late President Mills paying the land compensation and other compensation to the owners of Akosombo. We was constructed in 2007. As I say to you, the land compensation has been paid. The measure of the two will cause delayance in the land compensation. It will cause delayance in most of the entitlement that the local indigenes in Bole, Bamboi, and Bana are entitled to. So clearly, that is the fundamental issue. Then the second issue is that from the insider information from Bui Power Authority, the discussion is that the Ministry of Energy wants to merge the two. They wanted to merge all the thermal plants, Ameri power plant, Car Power, T plant, and all those things to form what we call the Ghana Thermal Authority, so that they will float it on the Ghana Stock Exchange and act buy shares. Even you and I know you don't have money to go and buy shares in that. I will not have money to go and buy shares.
But as a member of parliament,
rich men who are doing this measure, who will go and buy the shares?
Ahmed Ibrahim, as a member of
capturing the energy sector.
Ahmed Ibrahim, as a member of parliament and a senior one of that, you're the first deputy minority leader. You're believing in rumors without any evidence.
I believe that is why the former chief executive officer opposed it, even though his own minister was initiating the measure.
Another allegation.
When Jaco started it, Fedowari opposed it.
Another allegation you've made tonight is that some of your colleagues were lobbied. What was the nature of the lobby? Were they induced?
They were. When I say lobbying, lobbying does not mean material lobbying. Lobbying means trying to convince.
Yeah, but so that's my point. That's my point to you earlier.
It's no longer the minister.
But that's my point to you earlier, Ahmed Ibrahim. So if it's simply trying to convince, what is wrong with that?
It's not what the minister for energy. What is his interest? Head of September, Opoku Prempeh resigned from the Minister of Energy long ago. What is his interest in lobbying members to make sure that these bills were laid, even though the hard copies were not in Parliament, sending fast-track WhatsApp copies and lobbying members that allow it to be laid?
But the fact that he's no longer the fact that he's no longer the energy minister, does it disable him from lobbying and speaking to colleagues on a matter that he believes in? As a senior member of this particular administration,
you are in Ghana. When you are talking about matters of Ghana, you have to know that you are talking about Ghanaians. And therefore, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, when he was nominated as a running mate, he reluctantly didn't want to resign as Minister for Energy. And Minister of Energy, he was sworn in. He was officially adorned as a running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in Kumasi, even though he was doubling as a running mate and Minister for Energy at the same time. What is his interest?
I want to get some clarity.
He don't want to leave that place.
I want to get some clarity on the issues you've raised tonight. And thankfully, I've been joined by Andy Japamesa. He's a former deputy energy minister. Must have been there at the time this whole idea was first mooted, and he has some clarity on the matter and joins me right now. He's also the MP for Sekondi. Mr. Japamesa, so why is government attempting to merge the Volta River Authority with the Bui Power Authority? Why now?
Well, let me say good evening to your cherished listeners. First and foremost, I believe that we all recognize that government is the one that drives policy, okay? And so if a certain proposition is tabled, the ministry then goes through the processes of submitting it to cabinet for approval. And when cabinet deems the proposal worthy of consideration, then some formulation of the law is done and same is submitted to Parliament for consideration and approval. And so my understanding is that there's a lot of duplicity within the energy sector space. And so, for example, you have the Volta River, which has the Akosombo Dam, the Pong Dam, and also the Bui Dam, all sitting on the same river. And so it makes for efficiency that one entity manages all the assets on that river, as opposed to having two separate bodies managing those assets on that river. Okay, there's some duplicity within the work that the regulatory bodies within the energy value chain does. And so the PURC and the Energy Commission, for example, there's some level of, even though technically the Energy Commission is the technical regulator and the PURC the economic regulator, there's a lot of alignment, if you like, between the roles that both of them perform. And so the agencies themselves had indicated a need for some harmony to be rolled out. And so putting it together.
You say the agencies. You say the agencies themselves were in favor of harmony. Did that include the Bui Power Authority?
Yes.
The Bui Power Authority is in favor.
No, I'm talking of the regulatory agencies, PURC and Energy Commission. And Evans, this was not just dreamt up. Okay, there's been a lot of consultation that has gone on. At least at the time that I was at the Ministry of Energy. And did this include the community? The communities around the Bui area? Because that's fundamentally is Ahmed Ibrahim's concern. But Evans, the point is this. I really don't see why the issue of the community is coming up. Because it's not as if the dam is being moved from Bui to Akosombo. The dam will still be where it is. It is just the management of that asset that is being consolidated as between VRA and Bui Power Authority to create Hydro Authority, Ghana Hydro Authority.
Is that to admit that the people indeed have not been consulted?
I wouldn't say that, but you see, there's a process, okay? So you formulate a policy and you do some level of stakeholder engagement, which I believe has been done before you submit it to Cabinet for consideration. Cabinet necessarily will require that you do some stakeholder engagement within the affected community, affected stakeholders, agencies involved. And so that is done, and Cabinet approves. You go to Parliament, you do the laying of the bill. The bill is then referred to the appropriate committee. The appropriate committee then does the thorough work of doing all the engagements with all key stakeholders. And I'm sure that you've worked in Parliament for some time and you know how bill lawmaking evolves, okay? So it has that at that point that the extensive consultation amongst all the stakeholders, including the communities that is being suggested, would take place. What government sought to do today was to lay the bills for a referral to be made to the appropriate committee for them to then be seized with the bills to go into the detail of all the engagements that are required. So before a report is then submitted for debate.
So for clarity, government plans to, through the committee in Parliament, engage the people around affected in the catchment area of Bui.
Even at the ministerial policy formulation level, there will be some level of consultation.
But Ahmed says that hasn't happened. At least these people have not been consulted.
Well, I'm not in a position to confirm, because what I know is this, that even the policy formulation itself was done by the management and board of the entities concerned. And so the management and board of Bui Power Authority and VRA were tasked to formulate the policy, okay? And so that in itself is stakeholder engagement. It's not as if to say somebody sat in the Ministry of Energy and foisted this proposition on the stakeholders involved.
It appears so. I mean, I'm saying that what we've had to do on the floor of Parliament.
Regardless, even if there was no stakeholder consultation at this point, and I'm not in a position to confirm, because as you know, I've left the ministry since February. I'm saying that in itself doesn't mean anything, because it is not as if to say the law is being passed today. There is a process that has been outlined in the Constitution of Ghana, in the Standing Orders of Parliament, regarding lawmaking. All that it says is that when a bill is submitted to Parliament, it is read the first time, it is then referred to a committee. The committee invites memos from the public. That's a lot of engagements with the public. And so any stakeholder engagement that has not taken place already, assuming that was even the case, it's not as if to say time is bad. That necessarily will take place. So the raving and ranting with respect, that is feeding into the discourse at this point. It really is unfounded.
But also it's also about
Forgive
the timing.
me, I'm not too well. Okay, and
Yeah.
that's why my voice is.
No, I mean, but you raise an important point. But it's also about the timing. With less than 100 days to go before the general elections, why now? Why? And the point he made on the floor is, why don't you wait till after so you can do the proper consultation? So whoever wins elections can have full visibility.
In
on what you're
responding
doing.
to the arguments that are taking place on the floor of Parliament today, the Honourable Chairman Sabunsu made a point, and I wish to rely on that point and to say that the tenure of the government expires on the 7th of January 2025. So is it the suggestion that nothing should take place between now and then? We've lived in this country where after elections are held and won, government still made appointments and took decisions. In fact, our bauxite was signed over to Mr. Mahamad's brother on the 29th of December 2016, 9 days before he handed over. Did Ahmed Ibrahim see anything wrong with it? Did he? So it's neither here nor there. In any event, if you introduce a bill and the stakeholder processes does not conclude for the bill to pass before the tenure of the Parliament lapses, the bill dies and it goes to the next government if it's so minded to proceed. That's it. How many parliaments did the Right to Information Bill survive? Many. So really, what's this argument all about?
And
they quickly move and suggest that somebody wants to take way to capture the energy sector. Through what?
An allegation was made by Ahmed Ibrahim.
I'm told that this proposal to even delink the thermal assets of VRA, okay, and privatize it, started during the time of Mr. Mahama. Okay? And you say that Ameri and Car Power, private companies, government can take over them and put it together. But of course, VRA has thermal assets. Okay? That the intent is to distinguish those assets from the hydro so that they focus on their key mandate of managing hydro. And in this case, all the hydro assets on the Volta River, so that the thermal assets can be either put on the stock exchange or privatized. I'm not so sure what the decision is because, like I said, I'm no longer the Ministry of Energy.
I mean, and that's the point
that nothing untoward, absolutely nothing untoward. And I know I was there when the committees were set up, made up of the boards of these agencies to put together a policy.
And Mr. Mesa, clarify for me, because that's a point. That's a point that Ahmed Ibrahim makes the point.
He didn't want to resign, and what is his interest?
And I'll come back for you to clarify that point for me in what capacity he was lobbying today. But clarify for me again. Ahmed Ibrahim makes the point that part of this whole process is to then list the thermal assets. I think you've just confirmed that. I just wanted to expand and to get clarity on this, that it will eventually, and approved by Cabinet, go onto the Ghana Stock Exchange for Ghanaians to sort of buy into. Is that a grand plan? Is that part of what the Cabinet approved?
Look, I do not have the details of the Cabinet approval at this point, okay? But I'm saying that the decision that was taken, that was approved by Cabinet, was for all the thermal assets to be put under the Ghana Thermal Authority. And then all the hydro assets put under the Ghana Hydro Authority. All the regulatory bodies put together as one, and by regulatory bodies put together as one, I mean PURC and Energy Commission, and also the distribution company, that is Gridco, VRA, ECG, and NETCO put together as one distribution company. Okay, to suggest that Dr. Prempeh was in the chamber at the time when the bill was being laid, he was not there, because I was in the chamber up to the very point that we closed or we adjourned for sitting for the day. Dr. Prempeh was not there. Of course, he had come into the chamber earlier, but he's a member of Parliament. We had been recalled, and
did he or did he not lobby?
Had to attend the chamber as well, like everybody else.
Yeah, but did he or did he not?
The issue?
No, but did he or did he not lobby members of Parliament, particularly in the minority
side?
Do what? Well, to back the merger.
But the point of lobbying members does not even arise. Because the table office that lists items on the agenda, Evans, you've been a parliamentary correspondent for years. What is the need for anybody to lobby members that a bill should be put on the other people?
No, but beyond that, you want the House's buy-in from the minority side when it comes to the decision making.
The buy-in, we are not there.
Yeah, but you want to start.
The words of Kweku Baku, this purely is premature ejaculation.
Yeah, but you want to start.
We are not there. Look, the buy-in that you will need is during the debate, at the second reading, or at the committee hearing, where the ministry then submits all the papers, the rationale. You look at the memorandum that is attaching to the bill, and then you go into the details, and then you can come back to the floor and debate.
And very quickly,
why would anybody have the need to lobby members of parliament for a bill?
But substantively, did he or did he not lobby today, the minorities?
Look, there was no point, and so I don't see why he would do that. That's the point that I'm making.
And also, just finally, before I bring back Ahmed Ibrahim, now that you've provided some clarity on the reason for the merger, you've talked about, so we're going to have the Ghana Hydrological Authority, the Ghana Hydro Authority, and then you have the Ghana Thermal Authority.
Yes.
And the decision is that the Ghana Thermal Authority will be listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
Look, it's a process. At this point, the policy is to delink the assets of the thermal assets of VRA, okay, and let them focus on hydro, which was the objective of setting it up in the first place, to manage all the assets on the Volta River. That's why they have custody of Bon.
But it appears to me this is the first step. But it appears to me this is the first step in a very comprehensive restructuring of the agencies in the energy sector broadly, which will
absolutely
yes,
and that is where necessity.
And that is where the suspicion comes in from Ahmed Ibrahim that this listing on the Ghana Stock Exchange is just a ruse, this is just an excuse to get politically exposed individuals to buy and acquire the state assets.
Okay, assuming, without admitting that was even to be remotely considered as being the objective. Are we there? And why? If government wants to privatize VRA, you can't do it.
And should we wait?
No, I'm coming.
Yeah, you said we are not there, but should we wait to get there before people take over? If this is part of the plan
I want to know whether if government decides for some reason that it is going to privatize VRA today, it cannot do it.
Well,
does it require splitting the assets into two before? Why?
Government can, but
divested in this
But the direct question to you is this part of the plan, as has been alleged tonight, that this is all
that there's no
part of the plot to get politicians to buy the state assets?
For who?
For politically exposed MPP individuals and groups.
That's a complete ruse. Red herring. No basis whatsoever for that assertion.
And I still have with me Ahmed Ibrahim. Very briefly, you've heard the reasons for the decision that was taken by Cabinet, and there's a more comprehensive one than just merging the Water River Authority with the Bui Power Authority. Quickly, have you heard enough to allay your fears?
You see, Ivan, these kind of politicians we have in Ghana who debate based on the side that they belong to is a problem. It is. To begin with, my good friend, Honorable Mesa, has quoted Oseche Mensah Bonsu as saying that the mandate of government extends to 7 January 2025. That is true. But the same Honorable Oseche Mensah Bonsu, in 2016, when we wanted to pass the Right to Information Bill, was the person who said our mandate was about to expire. We should not do it. And that is why Right Information Bill was not passed in 2016, and that is why Conduct of Public Officers Bill was not passed in 2016, and that is why Affirmative Action Bill was not passed in 2016. It was the same Oseche Mensah Bonsu as minority leader who argued that about ending the mandate, and therefore they should leave all those things and when a new government comes, they will do. Put that one aside. You see that the question that you put to Honorable Mensah, he himself was economical with the truth. The truth is this: VRA assets in the thermal sector. Government wants us to bring all those assets in the thermal sector and flow them. VRA argued that yes, our books are not good because of our expenditure in thermal plants. Therefore, if you want to take the thermal plants and bring them together, are you going to give competition?
And I believe I may have lost in there. Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear me? Okay, that's Ahmed Ibrahim. Unfortunately, lost him on the line. His line wasn't great. But Andy Ejapamesa, thank you very much for that intervention, helping us appreciate the decision that Cabinet had taken as part of this comprehensive overhaul and restructuring of agencies in the energy sector. Ahmed Ibrahim is the first Deputy Minority Whip. And the other point he made there, and Parliamentary Correspondent Kuku is with me in the studio, is the allegation that this paper that was attempted today, that the majority side attempted to lay today, wasn't part of the items to be considered when the emergency recall was first imagined. Yes.
The Speaker of Parliament this morning did indicate that he had admitted only 3 businesses to be done for this entire business. And the first is a $250 million IDA facility. The second is the $350 million worth of tax waivers that have been on the other paper of Parliament for several months. That is the second. And the final one has to do with the motion for rescission on the $250 million IDA financing agreement. These are the 3 items that the Speaker of Parliament admitted. But if you go into the application that was filed by the majority leadership, it included 10 bills that they intended to lay and other things. It did not also include this particular bill that he sought to lay today.
Okay, so that is confirming that it wasn't part of the list of things to look at. But the Speaker himself, at a point, entertained it. If Ahmed Ibrahim had not raised the issues, it would have been
probably been late. In fact, yes, the Speaker of Parliament in the morning did indicate that the majority side had indicated to him that they wanted to lay some papers, and he would just, that is all he would allow, just papers. But when it gets there, he will decide. And so when the other paper addendum was brought in and all this was going on, before the attention of the members on the minority side were drawn, so Ahmed Ibrahim and also the MP for Boli Bamboy all raised this issue because it affects their constituents. Before the Speaker of Parliament consulted with the clerk to Parliament, who said that the only copy that he had gotten was on WhatsApp, for which reason the Speaker did indicate that he was not going to allow it.
Before you go, though, the top item on the list of things to be considered during this emergency sitting is the approval or otherwise of this $250 million loan, right?
Yes.
It was rejected before they went on recess. Today, the majority side attempted to overturn the rejection. They didn't succeed. They have 24 hours to get Parliament to now do that.
Yes. We understand the Finance Committee is going to meet on this. So when the majority leader moved that motion, the Speaker of Parliament wanted to take a decision on it, but then minority raised a lot of concerns. The first, John Jinapor, asking that the report, this document explaining what the 94 million to be used for to be referred to the Finance Committee. This position was somewhat challenged by Harun Idris, who said the entire process was a bit irregular because rescission is not just to change the decision that Parliament has taken. It must be relayed of a sort. And then the Speaker of Parliament comes back and says, okay, he wanted this to be given now to the Finance Committee so that they can report back to the House in 24 hours tomorrow. Mind you, Parliament is sitting, emergency sitting, today and tomorrow, Evans.
Okay, and there's more tomorrow. I want to stay with us here on Joy 99.7 FM, and I want to stay in Parliament a while longer because the Speaker, Alvin Baldwin, is lashing out on members of Parliament and politicians